Get back to the African Union headquarters then in the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa, where the meeting of foreign ministers at the African Union summit is continuing. Ziyanda Ngcobo joining us live then from there earlier on, just speaking, of course, to leaders who, of course, are trying to set out the statement as to how successful this has all been so far. Ziyanda, what's happening now?
Thank you so much. We've got Moses Vilakati here. He's a former Minister of Agriculture in eSwatini between 2013 and 2018, and also a tourism minister in that country. He's now one of the commissioners that has been elected. You remember that there were 6 commissions that were up for grabs yesterday. We have our own South African candidate who won, Lerato Mataboge. She's been elected for infrastructure and energy. We'll also get to speak to her a little later on. But for now, let's speak to Moses Vilakati. You have now been elected for, and I need to get this correct, for agriculture, rural development, blue economy and sustainable environment. It's quite the position there. Talk to us about your vision and congratulations, first of all.
No, thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to say something to the viewership. This is a mouthful position. As it incorporates agriculture, rural development, the blue economy, as well as the sustainable environment. My vision is mainly on the issue of food sovereignty or food security for Africa. We are spending over $100 billion importing food to Africa. Yes, we have got the soil, yet we have got the water, yet we have got the people, yet we have got the land. And what this means is that we need to capacitate our people, particularly in terms of what needs to be done so that we are self-reliant in our food systems. Because all of the other things are there and they are relatively in abundance in Africa. I think, first of all, we need to start looking at the increase in production as well as the increase in productivity. Because without that, we are not going to reach what we want, which is self-reliance in our food systems.
Self-reliance in many aspects as well, Mr. Vilakati, when you look at what's happening across the globe and geopolitical tensions and how superpowers are moving at this stage. You know, there's been a lot of attention on our country when it comes to from President Trump. And so that self-reliance, though, has been a conversation that has been long in the making, whether you're talking infrastructure development, manufacturing our own medicines, dealing with the food security crisis, insecurity crisis, I should say, across the continent. How are you going to make sure that this is operationalized? You know, there's still lots of questions, even about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement being operationalized.
I think what is important is that we now need to get to implementations. We've already done the pillars. They are already there. But the next step is to start implementing. You know what's happening in Africa generally is that we tend to produce, but we don't value add. That value chain is very critical so that we can have enough, so that at the same time the farmers will also be happy. Because if they do not get a good premium, they will stop production. And Africa just needs to be mapped to determine our comparative and competitive advantages in the West, in the East, in the South. Then we start giving some conglomeration to say, where can we now excel in this? Then we concentrate on those, then we look at the value chain systems. If we can do that, because we do have, like I said, the land, the water, etc.,
yes.
And bringing in the technology. And nowadays, the technology is becoming more and more important, particularly for the youth, because we no longer want to invent the wheel. But with the technology, you can do a lot. And I think that is the path that we need to follow.
Part of your portfolio also includes sustainable environment. Climate change is a big issue, but it's still a contentious topic. You know, some of the big countries that have the money are withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, i.e. the US, and yet on the continent, we are the least contributors towards climate change, but we're suffering the most. Your plan?
It is very unfortunate that we do have countries that are withdrawing. to issues of climate change, because climate change is here and it will keep on being in here. What we need is to develop resilience in the climate change issues. We need to tackle the adaptation, we need to tackle the mitigation, and then ensure that we have got a pathway to sustenance. Because without that, we'll have a very big problem. The issue of pollution is still an issue that we need to tackle. Yes. Because if we do not tackle it, sooner or later, we'll have no planet. No planet. And that's why I'm saying the geopolitical issues are a challenge, but I think we need to make sure that we come up with the best plans so that we can be resilient in the climatic issues, because they will keep on coming. It will be drought, it will be overflooding, it will be all sorts of things coming up. And ours is to make sure that we are a step ahead of those to make sure that we can sustain ourselves.
Certainly a reflection of a united SADC there, a win for SADC, I must say, with the 2 of the 6 commissions coming from the region. That's Moses Vilakati. He's been elected as the commissioner for, and Arabil, I have to read this, for agriculture, rural development, blue economy and sustainable environment. One of the 2, our own Lerato Mataboge, also being elected for the Infrastructure Development Commission. So our neighbors are going to have a lot to talk about, because these commissions are intertwined in terms of the visions and the projections that they have in place insofar as what they want to achieve for the next 4 years. So the geopolitical tensions are a challenge, but for at least our parts in the Southern African region, we seem to be quite okay.
Yeah, and it's very important that still we see all the elements that we wanted to get through at the African Union, not just for South Africa, not just for SADC, but really for the entire region, are certainly happening and still moving forward. Ziyanda, thank you so much for that reporting. Of course, we'll continue to broadcast towards her then, and to her, should I say then, throughout the day.